Welcome back, friendly ghosts, friendlies and non-friendlies, and today we're going to be discussing Soul Blade, one of my favorite fighting games. I don't think it's the greatest. I have Soul Calibur 2 and Third Strike as the undisputed, but for me personally, my pick would have to lie with Soul Blade. So I've had some time with the game thanks to the powers of, being able to emulate it and practice it, dissect it, lab it. I've been able to find some intricate details in Soul Blade, or aka Soul Edge, that I want to share with y'all. I'm gonna do like a rundown tutorial session and discuss the game in the light of competitive play.
Welcome to the stage of history.
Soul Blade is a mix of Tekken 2's movement if it were more refined and smoother, quicker, with Soul Calibur buttons. Let's start off with the basics.
Battle 1. Fight.
So let's start it off with the button layouts. You have A, horizontal, B, vertical attacks, K, kicks, G, guard, and the other one, guard impact, which is the game's parry. Horizontals beat stepping, vertical beats crouch, guard blocks all damage, and unless you don't have a weapon. And then there's guard impact, which beats weapon strikes. Guard impact is the wrench in the plan, right? It's the essential equivalent to a, the perfect parry, steal the turn, right? In this game, unlike Soul Caliburs that would follow, I didn't play Soul Calibur 1, but Soul Calibur 2 and onward, there's guard impact battles. That doesn't exist here. Guard impact is purely a turn stealing mechanic. You get full launch, punishes, combos. It's very, very, very strong. However, unlike future Soul Caliburs, guard impact only affects weapon strikes. Kicks beat guard impact, so it's very purposeful to have, a good mix of what you throw out in your attack patterns. The downside of kicks is that kicks don't do weapon damage. We'll get to that later on. We'll talk about that later on. It's also worth noting that whiffing a guard impact or getting technically counter hit by throwing out a guard impact, it doesn't count as a counter hit, right? So even if you throw a guard impact and it's the incorrect choice, you don't take counter hit damage or properties. So there's that. Alright. Number 2 of the basics would be stepping. Sidestepping in this game is a big commitment. Things weren't completely seamless 3D, but I think it works pretty well here. Sidestepping is a big commitment, but it's also a big reward. You're very vulnerable when you sidestep. So to counteract being so vulnerable and having such a large recovery window, you have sidestep attacks. Every character has 5 of these. Of course, the horizontal, vertical, and the kick option. The kick option is always ending in a crouch, hitting low. And then you have the launch option, and then you have usually a stun option or otherwise. It's worth noting that there's one character who sung Mina. She has 2 sidestep attacks that are the same exact attack, but one is just clearly better than the other. So I don't know what that's all about. I don't know what it's all about. That must have been an oversight. And number 3 of the basics would be wake up attacks. Every character has 2 wake up attacks, and they change depending on whether you're face up or face down, just the animation. Both of these options are always a mix up. You have the sweep from the kick and everything else being a medium. Wake up attacks are very, very strong in Soul Blade because they can't be guard impacted or reversaled, and all of them are safe. All of them are safe and very, very quick, so they are a very powerful tool for mixing up somebody and just getting cheap damage. You don't want to get caught in this ever. You always want to avoid this. As an example, a Taki combo off of a wake up counter hit. It's in practice mode, but the numbers equate to 38% damage. There are 6 options that I would advise for counteracting this. It's pretty much the only options. The option that I won't advise is trying to defend it. I won't advocate for that. You don't want to do that, so try these. Number 1 would be spacing. You want to make sure that you have a decent backstep, get some spacing between them, make sure that you're not in the vicinity, bait out their wake up attack, and then whiff punish them. Number 2 would be getting a, guess what would be called a meaty. Some characters have attacks where they can just avoid the whole situation. So if they do a wake up attack, you're gonna connect first. That's a great tool for those who can do this, who have lingering hitboxes. Number 3 would be the high jump. This could lead to some weird scenarios, and it may not always have the best outcome for you, but it can get you out of dodge. Number 4 would be the jump over. Jump over their planking body and get to the other side, and just force a weird interaction. Number 5 would be stepping. Bait them to do a wake up attack and then sidestep it. There's a potential chance that you can get to their back and get some crazy setups from that. Potentially get a kill sequence. But it's a gamble because you're at risk. They're at risk. You're just risking it for no reason, but it could pay off. And then the last one would just be a normal jump in place, and this will get you to avoid the sweep option. It won't avoid the medium option, but it'll avoid the sweep and get a decently sized combo from that. I would advise those options in that order of how to deal with wake up attacks. And continuing on with this trend of punishing, let's go to number 4 of the basics, Soul Blade, aka Soul Edge in general. Soul Edge is a very heavy whiff punish based soul game. Backdash is very strong. There is a Korean backdash light. It doesn't serve the same purpose because there's a guard button, so you're not guarding while you're doing it, but it is the best movement option. Right, it's the quickest way to move around in the game. But you also have a guard tap variant where you just backdash, tap guard, backdash, tap guard. I think that's slower, but they're both, they both can get the same job done. Some characters may benefit more from it because they have back turn stances by doing the quarter circle back input. So you want to avoid that and just do the tap guard, and you'll get the same job done. May not be as quick, but you'll get what you need. Some characters also have movement-based commands, like Sung Mina, and some others where they have moves that attack and move them backwards at the same time. So those are good options as well. Moving on to our next branch of topics. So now let's move on to the weapon gauge. This is a big one because this shapes how the entire game is played. This is what makes Soul Blade a very 2D-like game, a very meter-based game. So the weapon gauge controls how much you can guard without taking chip damage, but it also goes way beyond that. The weapon gauge also doubles as your super meter, aka the critical edge. And last but not least, running out of meter via guarding weapon strikes results in you losing your weapon and your entire move list for the round. Your whole damn move list for the round. On top of that, you start taking chip damage. You become vulnerable to chip damage against weapon strikes. Because you've lost your weapon, you can no longer guard impact. Of course, you lost your entire moveset. Your attacks are now block punishable across the board. Your grab has a lot of recovery, and you more or less have to rely on being extremely unconventional whenever possible to try to pick up a win. You know, you're basically tossed into a survival horror game at this point, and you know, anything goes to try to live. So yeah, you don't want to be here. It's very easy to understand how important the weapon meter is. The funny thing is, I still, through all these years, I never thought it was that much of a go-to strategy. I never really thought it was that big of a deal, because again, I feel like it was always kind of just fair. You know, but sometimes you need to let a game cook for 20 to 30 years, and then some sauce starts coming up. When your weapon is lost, again, you lose your entire moveset for a hand-to-hand combat. This means you no longer guard impact. You can't be guard impact yourself because all of your attacks are fist and kick based. So you at least get that on your side. You also take massive chip damage from all weapon strikes. Most of your moveset is punishable. Blah blah blah. We went through this. I'm reading my notes. Female characters do get a back toss ring out grab, while the male characters just deal more damage with their throw. It's worth noting for special weapons, because I'm in a camp that says special weapons should be legal in this game at least. But there's one weapon, the last weapon, the final weapon, aka the 8th weapon, should be banned. That weapon's completely cheap. But every other weapon serves a purpose in just changing the way that the character plays. But anyways, what is worth noting that special weapons, your grab without a weapon, the damage changes based on what weapon you had equipped. So your grab gets either buffed or nerfed depending on the weapon, your special weapon that you have when you're in hand-to-hand combat. Anyways, that's just something I wanted to note. Yeah, pretty much you're at a complete disadvantage. You can still get good damage, just like 1 or 2 combos, go-to combos, but basically you're completely nerfed, and yeah, it's an obvious disadvantage. So, but knowing how important the weapon gauge is and how it can completely nullify your opponent's entire game plan, it's easy to see how you can try to formulate a game plan around it. But the problem is, how do you do that? Because sometimes you can go entire matches and just not empty that weapon gauge. But I found something, and I am calling this tactic of move GI free, aka can't guard impact. I missed opportunity for GGI, but I already wrote it in the footage and it's already recorded. So these GI free moves is a tactic that can completely deplete your opponent's weapon gauge, and it turns some characters into juggernauts. You know, it makes the game very imposing, and it's worth discussing. So the finding of these guard impact free moves is what I would like to call an old-fashioned game buff, right? These are patch notes 30 years later. If somebody already knew about this, you know, hats off to you, but it's the first time I've ever found out about it, so I'm gonna talk about it in the best way I know how, and hopefully you know, can find some useful out of this as well. So I'm realizing that I didn't even write this part down, so I'm gonna just do it off the cuff. So guard impact free moves are moves that are weapon strikes, so they deal damage to your weapon gauge, but you can't guard impact against them. If you do, then you just take the hit, right? And then you're vulnerable to that attack coming out again. Or maybe you'll get knocked down, or maybe something else might happen. It'll launch you in the air for a combo. But you know, it all begins with the fact that you can't guard impact this move. And so what do? Some of them you can reversal. For some characters have reversals. Reversals aren't that strong in this game, but some characters do. Sophie has the best reversal, but even then they're not that strong, and it's not something you would do. And even then, it doesn't cover every single attack, so there's some still that you can't reversal. So anyways, so with these guard impact free moves, characters like Li Long, The Rock, Sophitia rather, to name a few, have very strong ways to empty out your gauge very quickly and very safely. The Rock, for instance, becomes especially a menace, which he's always just stomping you, shaking the screen, and it's just in your face the whole time, chipping out your weapon gauge, and it's doing a significant amount. You can't guard impact it. If you take the hit, you take the hit, and then you're vulnerable to another one, right? So eventually you're going to have to take it, or you're going to have to try to jump out of it. You got to try to do something to avoid it, right? So a lot of characters come to life and depleting your drive, not your drive gauge, goddamn, depleting your weapon gauge. Li Long, he has one where he has one that can completely just obliterate your weapon gauge, and he can make it safe. Sophie is another one. She has some wild setups. So he could take out like 30%, 40% of your weapon gauge in one interaction. Siegfried, he has like the best, I think he gets like 50% off of one interaction of your weapon gauge, and you can't guard impact it. So there's layers here, but that's not even the end of it. At the end of it, it leads to the following thing, is that once you empty that weapon gauge, you can get a stun combo. So what happens when you lose your weapon, your character loses the weapon flies up, your character flies up to a juggle state, but you can't juggle them, right? They become invincible in the air. They land on the ground, and then they get up from a hard knockdown state. They can't tech, they're stuck in place, and they get up with their bare fists, and they'll be able to block the next thing coming toward them. Or you may be able to get a ground attack and hit them on the ground. But there is a moment when they're landing to the ground where you can stand them back up and they can't block. Once you empty their weapon, depending on how you empty that weapon gauge, how you break their weapon, you can follow up with a launch combo, get a full punish. Or some characters can do their critical edge, and that's, a lot of damage. It's oftentimes 50%. Depending on the character, it would be more. And there's some cool combo sequences that you can have, break the weapon, dash underneath them, hit them from behind, relaunch them back in the air, combo, back juggle combo, fall up on the ground, and then, there's some cool sequences you can get out of this. And I don't think I've discovered them all, but there was one that I found out, right? It's like the last video I recorded for this. with Taki, and it's crazy, right? So basically, Taki gets a kill sequence. So if you lose your weapon against Taki, she has time, depending on how she depletes your weapon, she has enough time to go into her unblockable attack. It's a little bit tricky because it's like it tries to eat your command sometimes, or maybe it's just my controller or something, I don't know. But anyways, if you do it on point, since they can't tech off the ground, they're stuck in place. While they're still in the air flying up, you're charging the unblockable. And the unblockable doesn't come out because they can't delay getting off the ground. It doesn't come out until they're standing back up, and Taki gets a free unblockable from that. If they're waking up, they can wake up attack, but they have to do it in place. Then they're going to get counter hit, and then it's just going to do more. That unblockable, instead of doing 50% or whatever it is, it's instead going to do 75% or 80%, you know. So, you know, I'm pretty sure, because that was something the latest thing I just found. I'm sure other characters, they might be able to get something similar. That's pretty cool. You know, Taki struggles. She doesn't really have that many guards. She doesn't have guard impact free moves. She has one, but it's not good. And it doesn't leave her with a combo opportunity. So she'll have to struggle a bit to get to that. But in general, she's going to be a character who pressures you a lot, because we got to get on to the next order of business, in which we're going to be talking about recovery frames, shortening your recovery frames. In Soul Edge, pressing forward after most actions, or just holding a direction or holding guard, in most cases will give you better advantage for both the offending and defending players. And so this is useful for reducing things like block stun, crouch canceling, applying pressure, and just potentially just getting out of or potentially getting a punish or getting out of a punish of something where it would otherwise be impossible. So holding guard or doing any command input past a certain point in your recovery frames allows for quicker actions. In some cases, it's better to do the forward dash. But I think you can just do any direction, just hold a direction. To do crouch canceling, you have to do a forward dash or a back dash. Forward dash is I think it's the best way to go about it. You can cover both bases, all your bases, and just hold guard and then forward dash and buffer it in, and then you'll get everything at the same time. And doing this is very useful. Like one case in point, Cervantes. Right, he has a very good weapon damage, AAA, or like BBB, or you know, whatever it is that he does. It does a lot, and you can't avoid it. Once the first hit connects, you're stuck in there for the whole remainder of it. If you try jumping it, you can't jump it. You try stepping it, you can't step it. If you try mashing out of it and try to guard impact, you probably just get hit instead. So you have to use one of these methods of just holding guard at the right and releasing it at the right moment. Or you can hold guard and do a forward dash. You know, so that forward dash will be buffered in while you're guarding, and you'll be able to break out of that your recovery animations quicker, and you'll be able to avoid the following hits that he's about to do. Either guard impact him, or in some cases just straight up potentially get a counter hit, or just launch him in the middle of what he's doing. Jump out of it, you know, you name it. So there's utility for this across the board of the entire game. So it's worth noting this, that this can be applied to everything, when you're guarding to when you're on offense. The severity of it differs, but you know, just in general, you want to make sure that you're doing this will never end at all times possible because it can't save you. And you know, the rewards for doing this is better than just waiting, you know. So it never hurts, and it's always beneficial. One key example of using your shortening your recovery frames is with guard impact itself. So if you try to guard impact, which is a very powerful tool, it's basically a turn stealer. There's a decent amount of recovery on the guard impact if you whiff it. If you try to like do something like guard impact and then, oh shit, I need to guard impact this, I need to do it again. You try to do it a second one, you won't get the second one. Instead, you'll just get a guard. So the trick, if you wanted to do this, let's just say, throw out the guard impact and hold guard for a moment, or just hold a direction. And then you'll get out of that guard impact recovery animation. You'll see the character kind of zip back to his or her neutral state. And then you can throw out another one, right? And so it just gets rid of that extra layer, that extra middleman, to allow you to act quicker and be more responsive. A little tip can be applied to several things in this entire game. So can't stress how good it is for things like applying pressure with Taki. She doesn't have her possession canceling in this, her possession stance in this game. So she does have dash canceling type of, you know, mid-high, mid-low sequences that are tough to get out of. And it's basically, you know, feels the same role more or less. And other characters have their own things that just makes life a lot easier for them. So with all that said, I'm gonna show y'all this informative video of Soul Blade. Enjoy this. It's gonna cover all the guard impact free moves for the most part. I might have missed some with Cervantes. Cervantes basically has an entire move set of them. Yeah, enjoy it, and I'll be back with the last topic.
Battle 1. Fight. Battle 1. Fight. Battle 1, fight. Battle 1. Fight. Battle 1. Fight. with the victory of Hwang. You win! Battle 1. Fight! Battle 1. Fight. You win.
All right, last, I hope you enjoyed this video. Took a lot of time putting it together. We are down to the last topic. Here we're going to talk about weapon clashes. Soul Calibur 6 tried to implement this as the reversal edge. But before then, we had this, and I personally think it's a much more engaging way to go about it. So this happens when both weapons collide at the same time. This is reversal edge done less intrusively. When weapons class, you enter a three-way guess. Horizontals tie with horizontals and loses to kicks. Vertical ties with verticals and loses to horizontal. Kicks trade with kick and loses to vertical. Okay, so that's the basics of it. Now let me read whatever this shit says. Okay, so Soul Edge has a lot more depth than is given credit for, and experiences genuinely face fast pace of domination, security, and moves. Soul Calibur, they can hybrid, and what the fuck? Okay, let me go into more detail since these notes ain't going to cover it. Okay, so let's just run that down again. So horizontal ties with horizontals and loses to kicks. So when I mean horizontal ties with horizontals, both weapon classes resets neutral, or not resets, yeah, resets, but y'all are close to each other and no damage is done, right? Loses the kicks. The kick will sweep you, they get a knockdown on you. Vertical ties with verticals, but loses to horizontals. The vertical classes, both weapon classes, resets, no advantage. Loses to horizontal, horizontal knocks down. That is the reward for every interaction in the weapon class. Now the last one is when things get different. Kicks trade with kicks and loses to vertical. The kicks trade with the other kick. There is no class. They just trade. They trade with the other kick. So both take damage, both get knocked down, and both have to get up the same. Or, however they choose to get up. Loses to vertical, it's just the same thing, they get knocked down, right? So that is the breakdown of the weapon class. It's not that complicated. It's basically the same as it is in Soul Calibur 6, just, a lot more hype when it happens. So yeah, that pretty much covers what I wanted to talk about with Soul Blade. There's a lot of depth in here, and I feel like I didn't cover everything. Like I would have to go through each character individually, even though I did that video. So much details to talk about that I did not cover, and it has to go through character by character by character by character to break them down with all of the new findings that I've had, and implementing them and just going through the whole roster. That will truly be the breakdown that gives you a bit more insight. But yeah, that pretty much covers it. I hope you have found this video to be of insight, enjoyment, and I just want to say that I love this game. I love it a whole lot. It is one of the first games I've ever gotten, and my mother gave it to me, and I've never looked back. For my birthday, I've never looked back. Played this game my whole life, never really got tired of it. What I would give to have Soul Blade brought back. I know people love Soul Calibur, but for me, Soul Blade has always been the one that was the most satisfying. The hits feel like they have gravity to them. When you hit somebody with a big attack, you feel like you've hit them hard. When you hit them on the ground and you stomp on them, you see the earth shake, you see everything, the screen rattle, you feel the impact. It feels good. It feels good to land hits, and again, it's just like the most with punish based Soul game out there. It plays a lot like a 2D game, hybrid, a lot of Tekken isms in there, but it still is Soul Calibur. It is the roots of Soul Calibur. It has a super meter, doubles as a guard meter, also doubles as your move set lifeline, also doubles as your stun meter, and there's just so many layers to this that man, this game is just so good. It's so good. So good. I would love to see a remaster of it, but not just a remaster. I would like to see like a remaster / remake, like an in-between remake remaster, where they add an online function. They make it like a championship edition of Soul Blade. Have the special weapons already unlocked, but only the ones that are competitive worthy, because I think they generally make the game exciting. Now that I think about it, I didn't talk about this. All grabs are techable with the same tech, which is A plus G. So even if you do a B grab, you still tech it with A plus G. Anything you do, you can tech with A plus G. There's only one way to tech, and that's A plus G. So you really should never be getting grabbed in this game. Really. You can buffer grab in anything you do where you're striking. You can buffer a grab in there. If you're throwing out a guard impact, you can still buffer a grab, a throw break in there. Whatever you're doing, you can buffer a grab throw break at all times. So you should really just be doing it the whole, the whole time you're playing. You should just be buffering a grab in there, in between your moves, in between your movement. So you can be breaking grabs while you're not actually whiffing a grab. So yeah, anyways, remake, hybrid remake, remaster. Championship edition of Soul Blade. The characters unlocked at the start. If there are any other hidden characters, have them unlocked. Add more stages. Make the stages look prettier. Make them look better. Make them look more Soul Calibur like. That's the weakest part of Soul Blade, is the stages, in my opinion. Soul Calibur stages, mind blowing. Doesn't matter which entry you're looking at, they're mind blowing. Soul Blade is definitely the weakest. Largely due to limitations. So I would like to see Soul Blade with Soul Calibur stage designs. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I would like to see some changes to the gameplay, like maybe your weapon, your weapon break. After weapon break, your weapon can come back. You could pick it up maybe. But other than that, I'm good to go. I'm good to go. That's the greatest game of all time for me. Give me the remake, remaster of Soul Blade, and I'm floating on cloud 9. Like, I love this game. Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to share. I just wanted to share my passion for Soul Blade. And yeah, maybe one day. Maybe one day. But until then, let's just keep on pushing and striving with our heads held high. I'll see y'all in the next one. I hope you've had a wonderful time, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. May peace be with. Always keep your heads up. Deuces, those bows, ideals. Stay cool. If you like this content, be sure to show some love. But always be sure to show that love to the people who matter to you. It's ITOwl bidding you farewell, peace, much love, and stay cool.
Out of the ring.